name is Janay Edmonds, and I am the owner of my brand, Journeying with Janay. Journeying with Janay started about 5.5 years ago now, well, almost 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago this May. And I am taking you all with me on my journey as I turn pain into purpose. So, a huge part of me turning pain into purpose is my mental health, right? Our mental well being, our emotional health, because we all go through things and we all need help. So, 5.5, almost 6 years ago now, actually, it'll be 6 years next week in March, I started going to therapy. I finally understood that needing help was okay after so many people, doctors, family members, friends, like, you might want to try therapy. You might need to talk to someone because of all that you're going through. And for so long, I shunned away from it, right? Because there's a stigma in the community in general, but especially as a person of color, especially in the church. For those of you who don't know, I am a PK. So there's a stigma about mental health. We always be told to deal with it or to pray about it or it's going to be okay. It's not that bad. But in all actuality, we do need help. So on our first Mental Health Mondays, I thought the perfect topic would be that needing help is okay. So again, I'm Janay Edmonds. I'm the owner of Journeying with Janay, and I'm so happy to take you all with me on this phase of my journey and talk about something that is so near and dear to my heart, as well as talk about something that is necessary. I feel that it's a very necessary conversation for some people. Mental health is still taboo to talk about. It's still a little something that some people either feel ashamed of because they struggle with their mental health. They try to hide it. And sadly, some people, they conceal it and internalize it so long until they're no longer here with us because they'll take their lives, because attempt to take their lives or actually take their lives by suicide because they have no one to talk to. So I want to create this platform to be a safe space for us to discuss our mental health. So with that being said, I want to tell you a little bit of my story about how I came to the point of knowing that needing help was okay. As I forestated, I am a PK, which is a pastor's kid, and I have had some health challenges pretty much all my life, from a baby up until adulthood, with the greatest of those being fibromyalgia. So I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia at 16 years old. For those of you who don't know what fibromyalgia is, it is a chronic pain disease that has no cure unless God decides to heal me. And I deal with debilitating pain. Some days I can't talk. Some days I can't walk. Some days I can't get out of bed. So I dealt with the mental and emotional side that comes along with that disease as well, and not just the physical side. So how many of y'all deal with some things that's intertwined? Doesn't have to be fibromyalgia. You can drop it in the comments if you feel comfortable. Whatever that you deal with that affects your mental health. It could be depression. It can be anxiety. Some people may actually have clinically diagnosed disorders such as bipolar, schizophrenia. There's so many mental health disorders, and there's no shame in having those. I always say that I feel that I'm a bridge because the mind, body, and spirit has a connection. What you feel in, what you think in your mind, and what you feel in your body, it manifests. So I want you to understand that there's a mind, body, and spirit connection, and I want to be that bridge for you to bridge all of them together and allow them to know that it's okay to need help. So as I said, had fibromyalgia, dealt with that, and kind of had it under control, so I thought, but I struggled a lot with my mental health. And it wasn't until I lost all of my grandparents in the span of probably about 18 months, 6 years ago or 7 years ago, it'll be this year, that I decided that, hey, I think I need to go talk to someone. I wasn't myself. I didn't recognize myself. I was making snap and hasty decisions. I was snappy. I was staying in bed, not realizing that I was depressed, having some anxiety. And I finally made the decision that needing help was okay. I finally made the decision to go and see a therapist. So with that being said, I want you all to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with going to talk to someone about your mental and emotional health. I heard someone say on the Breakfast Club that we take care of every other part of our bodies. If we're having joint pain, we go and see a rheumatologist. If we're having headaches, we go and see a neurologist. If we're having issues with our heart, we go and see a cardiologist. But so many people are ashamed to take care of their mind. And your mind is simply another part of your body. Just like your heart is, just like your joints, it's another part of your body. So it is absolutely okay to go and speak to someone. So when you're going on the journey of finally knowing that needing help is okay, it may not be the easiest to find a therapist. And I want people to know, please do not get discouraged if the first therapist that you seek does not work out for you. Thankfully, I was just blessed that the first therapist that I did have, he worked for me. But everybody, that's not everybody's testimony, right? That's not everybody's story. You have to find a therapist who is the right fit for you. And there's several different avenues to do that. One, through calling, through knowing whatever health insurance you have, calling them or going on their website and seeing what therapists accept your insurance. There's also websites like betterhelp.com that you can go, and it's all virtual and you can find a therapist for your needs. There's also Talkspace, and I will link these in the comments after the live, these two websites that you can go to find a therapist. So finding a therapist is mainly the first step in taking care of your mental health. Once you find one, finding one that you know will be okay, that you feel safe with, and that will be different for everybody. What I need in a therapist, you may not need in a therapist because you're dealing with a different issue. So go find someone who you know that you can have a safe space to speak with, that will be non-biased, and that will help you on your healing journey. So me finding a therapist, like I said, the first one, that was just a blessing in itself. So the more I went to therapy, the more I started to understand the whys behind my behaviors. I started to understand I struggle with being perfect, right? So I started to understand why that was, and I was able to trace it back to childhood, and I was able to say, okay, this is the moment that made me feel this way. So one of the biggest things that I tell people is when you go to therapy, go there open-minded, number one, and number two, go there and be honest. Be honest with yourself and be honest with your therapist, because you cannot get the help that you need by not telling them the truth. Know that it is their job to keep whatever you tell them confidential, and know that you have a safe space in them. So go find you a therapist. That's step one. Step two, go there with an open mind and being honest. So that's what I went there with. I'm like, these are the things I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with grief. I'm struggling with depression, which I didn't really know it was depression then, but it was actually depression and some anxiety. So I was able to go there, speak freely, and have my therapist say, okay, these are the things that you're struggling with, and these are the ways that we can help you cope. So those are the two like main things in knowing that needing help is okay. And then after that, I had to get to a space too that I had to know, and I take this tagline from my cousin, Dr. Tracy Reed. I'm not sure if she's on here, but she is an amazing mental health professional. That you have to have more tools in your healing handbasket than just prayer. And I'm going to use the analogy that she used. And she said that think about it as a mechanic. If you go to a mechanic and he can only fix one thing on your car, he only has the tools to fix one thing on your car, but something is wrong besides the one thing that he can fix, then you're pretty much in a pickle, right? You're in a bind. You don't think that's a good mechanic, because how can you not know what to do with my car? You can only fix one thing. You only have the tools to fix one thing. So we have to think about our mental health that way. We have to have more tools in our healing handbasket than just prayer. Prayer is the foundation, right? God is the foundation of my life, and people of faith, if you're on here and you're a person of faith, God is the foundation of our lives. But even in scripture, it tells us to add to our faith. So then now we're adding to prayer. So what are those coping skills that I now have that's added to prayer? Going to therapy is one of them. But for most people, therapy is just 50 minutes twice a month. That's what it is for me. Or some people go weekly. It just depends on the frequency that you need to go, right? But if you are only having prayer and going to therapy those 2 to 4 times a month for 55 minutes each session, you still don't have enough tools. So going to therapy, you then gain the tools. You gain some of the tools like 7-11 breathing when you're feeling anxious. So I see several people saying that they struggle with anxiety. So one of the things that my therapist has taught me with anxiety is 7-11 breathing. Basically, you breathe in for 7 minutes. You inhale, and as you're inhaling good thoughts. You exhale for 11 minutes. And though I'm sorry, not minutes, seconds. So 7 seconds you're inhaling, 11 seconds you're exhaling. So as you're inhaling the good thoughts. As you're exhaling, you're releasing the energy and the bad things that you've been thinking about, or the trauma that you've experienced. So for my people with anxiety, that's definitely something that can help you. So that's another tool that can be added to your healing handbasket. There's journaling, that's a huge one for me. Writing my day down, writing my day off. And if I have anybody on here who's like me, who's an overthinker, like if you're an overthinker, drop some hearts in the comments or heart the video, right? Our minds are constantly going. We do not stop. Our minds don't stop, and most of us have a hard time falling asleep because we're overthinking. So one of the antidotes to overthinking is to journal, to write down everything that happened in your day. And everybody's journaling is going to be different. They're not going to start off the same. Like some people might just talk about their day, whereas other people that you might need to list things, or you may need to do a voice recorded journal and not actually write. But if you journal, that helps you get those things out of your mind and also release them from your body. And a step further, if you journal, then, or if you do a voice note and you go back and listen to it or read it to yourself, it shows you, where am I mentally? It's a check-in for yourself. Where am I mentally? Where am I emotionally? And then how can I proceed to move forward? So that is another tool that you can add to your healing handbasket to help. For some people, it may be meditation or yoga. Yoga is not something that I tried yet, but I've heard so many good things about. But meditation is something that I do. I put on some music, I start praying, or I just sit there and be quiet and allow my mind to rest. And then also open the floor for God to speak to me through meditation. So that is another tool that you can add to your healing handbasket. And the last tool that I purposely save for last, because sometimes it does have a little bit of a stigma to it. But if you need to take anxiety medication, depression medication, it is okay. You don't have to be ashamed of it. You don't have to be fearful of it. If that is something that you and your therapist, you and your primary care doctor has talked about, and you know that that's something you need, it is okay. Healing is not linear. Let's say this, right? It's not linear, and we're not a monolith. I'm different from you, and you're different from me. So the things that work for Janay, even though I'm sharing, they may not work for you. So you have to find what works for you. And if medication is what you need, and you have a mental health professional as well as a primary care physician who's helping you, take the medicine. It is okay. Guess what? I am on an antidepressant medication. And I can tell if I do not take it like I'm supposed to, I'm more anxious. I don't fall asleep. It's okay to take those. I know we've had those stereotypes. I know sometimes people, even in a playful way, might call people crazy, or, oh, you need crazy medication or whatever. And that's where we have to be so careful with our words and the things that we say to people, because we never, ever, ever know what people are carrying internally. We don't know the burdens that other people carry. We don't know the ways that people suffer in silence. So if you need medication, take the medication, do what you're supposed to do. It is healthy coping mechanisms. I never ever want to see anybody that I'm connected to, whether it's personally in my life, through social media, any of my J-bugs. I never want to see anybody that I'm connected to struggle because of their mental health, struggle because they're ashamed of it, struggle because they think that they're going to be judged, or they're fearful, or even they think, okay, what if people on my job find out, or if you have children, what if somebody find out that I struggle with these things? And I want to, tonight's whole episode, really the whole premise behind Mental Health Mondays, but definitely tonight's episode, is knowing that needing help is okay. Is knowing that you are not alone, and it's knowing that your mental well-being has to be a priority. If you are not mentally and emotionally well for yourself, You cannot be there for anybody else. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you don't constantly fill your own cup back up, if you don't take care of your mind, if you don't take care of your emotions, if you don't take care of your spirit, right? We talked about that mind, body, spirit connection. You cannot show up for anybody else. And if you constantly try to show up for other people when you're running on empty, when you're not mentally well, guess what? You're going to crash and burn. And people's crashes and burns are totally different for everybody else. For some people, they body give out, right? They can't get out of bed for days. That's me. When I don't take care of my body, my mind, and my spirit, I have flare-ups with my fibromyalgia, and I literally can't get out the bed for days. For some other people, they can't get out the bed. For some people, they isolate, right? They can't be around crowds. They can't be around people. And unfortunately, for others, it goes to the extreme of possibly trying to take their own life. I never, ever, 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 ever want to see anybody in that position because they were ashamed to do what they needed to do to take care of their mental health, and they were ashamed to prioritize their mental health. So make sure today and moving forward that you're okay knowing that you need help, whether it's a therapist, whether it's your pastor, whether it's through medication, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through yoga, whatever you have to do, whatever tool you need, whatever coping mechanism you need, use those. And also, something I do want to talk about as well are the negative coping mechanisms we use because we don't have healthy ones. We see a lot of people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol. Why? Because they want to numb the pain. They're not okay saying, I'm not okay. So the only way they know is to numb the pain. We see some people who even cut themselves. We see people who overeat because they are emotional eaters. So the more they eat, the more comfort they feel, right? So we have to try our best, and there's no judgment, but we have to try our absolute best to stick to healthy coping mechanisms. And the first healthy coping mechanism there is to admit that you need help, and then to move forward in finding that therapist or that pastor, that friend, and then move forward in your mental health tools. So tonight, again, I thank everybody who's on with me. And I'm trying my best to read a lot of y'all comments as they're going forward. I see somebody's talking about isolation. Yes, Naisha, isolation is something that a lot of us do, and sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's not healthy, right? So there's isolation that sometimes God isolates us, right? So let's go to the spiritual side of it. Sometimes God needs us to be just him and us, right? He needs to speak to us. He needs to move us forward. But then there's that unhealthy isolation that a lot of people face when they're going through, when life is chaotic and it's crazy. The only way they know how to cope is to isolate. And that can be a good and bad thing because too much of anything is bad, right? So sometimes you do need to check out from friends and family and just get back to that emotional center, get back to that wellness, and that's okay. But having yourself isolated for so long to where it goes from isolation to depression that is not healthy, that you're by yourself, you're not speaking to anyone, you're not talking to anyone, you're not telling anyone your feelings. That type of isolation is not okay. And that's something that I pray and hope that through this platform we can break. Even if you like, I can't even pick up my phone and do nothing else, but I'm going to pick up my phone every Monday at 7:30 to watch Mental Health Mondays. That means that the whole purpose of this platform has been accomplished. The whole reason why God gave me the vision to do this has been accomplished. You are not alone. You don't have to be alone when you go through things. So know that, yeah, it's okay if you need to remove yourself to get back to a space of mental wellness, but it's not okay to stay in that too long and to stay in that depression. And that's where you have to check in with yourself and have those trusted group of friends or family members who can be your circle of accountability to text you and check on you like, hey, I haven't heard from you. Hey, what's going on? Hey, I'm concerned about you, because they haven't heard from you and they know that you like to isolate. So that is actually my last thing that I wanted to talk about, putting in our healing hand baskets. We talked about prayer, we talked about meditation, we talked about yoga, talked about breathing, we've talked about medication, we talked about all of those things, seeing a therapist. But the last thing that I want to talk about tonight with needing help is okay is forming a healthy circle of friends, family, or whoever it is. I call mine my village, right? As most of you know who've been following me, I had surgery 2 months ago, and my village showed up. But I want to use my own story to show y'all the difference between isolation and healthy and unhealthy coping mechanisms, as well as healthy ones, right? So I had surgery. There was a core group of people who I like to call my village. They know who they are, who from day one, this is what's going on. I might have to have surgery, who immediately went into prayer, went into checking on me, right? Making sure that I was mentally well. And even throughout my surgery and throughout my recovery, whether they were physically there or just text me, called me, whatever they had to do, they made sure that was there. That's building healthy community and a healthy village and having trusted people. My business didn't go nowhere. No one who didn't know prior to me putting a video on social media that I was having surgery, they didn't know unless I told them, and my village kept that. So tonight, my prayer for you is, especially in adding this to your healing handbasket, is knowing that having a village, a strong village, is so important. Whether it's 2 to 3 people, if we want to go spiritual, where 2 or 3 are gathered, or it's more than that. Having a healthy village, having a strong village is important, because going through this surgery, it was not only God, of course, but my village that got me through, versus health issues in the past. I isolated and I didn't tell anyone, and I felt alone, and I felt sad, and I felt depressed, and I felt that no one loved me or no one cared. But in all honesty, it was my fault because I didn't let anybody know. So you have to let people in. You have to find that safe space, those safe people, to let people in. You can't get upset and say, nobody didn't check on me, if you're isolating yourself. You can't get upset and say, well, nobody loves me or cares about me, because they're not checking on me. They're not checking on you because they don't know. You're not using your village that you're surrounded by. So that is my last tool tonight that I want to encourage y'all to keep in y'all healing handbasket, is a strong village. Make sure that they are aware of what's going on. Make sure that they're not only aware of your strengths, but they're aware of your weaknesses. Make sure that they're honest with you. Make sure that they're going to keep you accountable, right? I have some people in my village, like 4 people, who is just there for me for accountability. They are going to tell Janay when she's right, when she's wrong, and when it's indifferent, whether I want to hear it or not, but it always comes from a place of love. So make sure that you insulate. Instead of isolating, insulate. Can somebody drop that in the comments for me? Instead of isolating, we're going to begin to insulate after tonight. And insulating yourself means to surround yourself, right? If you think about insulation in the house, it is that barrier of protection in between the outside elements and the inside elements. If your house is not well insulated, if it's cold outside, it's going to be cold in your house. If it's hot outside, it's going to be hot in your house. So if your house is well insulated, it's going to keep you safe, it's going to keep you warm, and it's going to keep you protected. Just as your house needs to be well insulated, you need to be well insulated. So in this season and moving forward, we're not isolating no more. We're going to insulate ourselves. We're insulating ourselves with healthy villages. We're insulating ourselves with therapists. We're insulating ourselves with, even if it's our pastor we need to go through to. We're insulating ourselves with whatever healthy coping and healing tools and mechanisms that we need. So my J-Bugs, I told y'all that this will be a 30-minute conversation, and I meant that. I am so grateful for everyone who has tuned in, everyone who has shared, everyone who has felt safe enough to share in the comments. And again, even if you did not feel safe enough to share what you're going through in the comments, do so. Y'all can always feel free. If you have my number, text me. If you don't, DM me. My inbox is always available and open to have an honest conversation. And the last thing I want to say on needing help is okay. Know that not only needing help is okay, but in your healing journey that there will be ebbs and flows. There will be ups and downs. There will be seasons, right? To everything there is a season. That's biblical, but there's also seasons: summer, fall, winter, spring. There's also seasons. There's seasons in your life. So for me, I had my first therapist for 3.5 years, and his season was up. So then I had to move on and find someone else. I had to reassess and redefine what I needed in that moment. And that all goes back to making sure that you're mentally well, making sure that you're checking in with yourself, and making sure that you're honest with yourself so you can know what you need, you can know how to verbalize that I need help, and that someone can actually then come and help you, and you let those people in. So every Mental Health Monday episode, I want to end it with two things, an affirmation and a prayer, because death and life are in the power of the tongue. Our tongue is so important, which I said earlier. It's so important how we speak to people. We must be intentional with our words. A lot of us heard sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. That's the biggest lie ever. Words do hurt. Words stick with people, right? So we have to be intentional with our words. We have to affirm and declare the things that we want to see. It says, again, mind, body, spirit connection, that if you loose it on earth, God will loose it in heaven. You bind it on earth, he binds it in heaven, right? So we have to loose those things, that we have to speak those things that we want to see. So tonight we're going to end with a affirmation, and I'm going to my laptop because I want to say it just as I typed it, because it is so important. It is intentional. And I hope as I am declaring this, you're declaring it with me in your home or wherever you're watching me from. So tonight's affirmation is, I acknowledge that I need help. I absolve myself of the guilt that I feel for needing help. I know that it is okay to reach out for the necessary help that I need. I will go to therapy, do the work, take medication if necessary, meditate, and pray to become better. My mental well-being is my biggest priority. I know that it is okay to have Jesus and a therapist too. I'm adding to my faith and becoming better. I declare that I will be mentally and emotionally well. And now that we have affirmed it, let's seal it with a prayer. God, tonight I thank you for every person who is on this live. I thank you for every person who shared, who has been vulnerable enough and transparent enough to share their struggles. God, right now I ask that you please cover us, cover our minds, cover our bodies, and cover our spirits. God, right now I ask that every person that is watching tonight live and the people that will watch after, that you allow them to know that needing help is okay. You allow them to know that it's okay to have Jesus and a therapist too. You allow them to know that it is okay to add to their faith. You allow them to know that it is okay to have more than prayer in their healing handbasket. Most importantly, God, we give everything over to you. Everything that we struggle with mentally, whether it be anxiety, depression, overthinking, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, whatever we struggle with our mental and emotional health, we give it all over to you, saying, God, we know that you're bigger than it all, that you are greater than it all, and that you have the power to deliver us if we have the faith to believe. So tonight, dear God, we trust you for all things. Again, I thank you for this platform, and I thank you for everyone who you've allowed to watch. In Jesus' name, we pray and declare it. Amen. So again, my J-Bugs, thank you for coming along with me on this phase of my journey as I turn pain into purpose. And I will see you next Monday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time here on my Facebook page. And we're going to be posting it to my YouTube page as well. So if you do not have Facebook, or someone who you want to watch does not have Facebook, the episode of Mental Health Mondays will be posted tonight on YouTube. So again, thank y'all. I love y'all so much, and I pray that you know after tonight that needing help is okay, and that you will stay mentally and emotionally well until I see you next week. I love y'all. Bye.